Chance goal, brilliant! Just fantastic by Nicola Barella. And he does it! And Italy are champions of Europe! Forza Italia!
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to another edition of Serie Sit Down, World Football Index's podcast where you get your calcio to go. I'm Frank Crivello. He's Richard Carmen. Ciao, Richard.
Ciao, Frank. How are we doing on this Wednesday? We're on a Wednesday now.
Yeah. You know, we figured we wanted to keep our wives and our families, so Sunday night was out since the kids had to, do their trick-or-treat thing. And, my wife's birthday was last night, and so we figured let's do it Wednesday and let's have an excuse to talk about the fortunes of the Champions League teams a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm excited to talk all the games for not only Serie A, but also Champions League. But before we begin, I need to first make my apologies. Last episode, we were talking about some of the fan reaction cams that we had. And one of the guests that did a spot for us, I forgot his name. I feel embarrassed about it. So I'm going to give him special love right now. Ryan Malik is a Milanisti. Him and his son did a nice post-match interview for the first leg of Milan and Porto. Did a great job. They have this nice YouTube page. Definitely check it out. But I feel bad just because I fluffed his name, so I want to give him a special shout out today to say, hey, we love you, so thank you.
Okay, well that's good that you've come clean. I've never made a mistake like that. In the near 6 years we've done this, so I'm sure my time's coming though. Sabrina, Anthony, good to have you with us. Everybody else, check in with us, chat, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, helps us out big time. So we are going to just kind of tweak the format a little bit. Like I said, we're going to kind of put the attention on how are things going with the Champions League, how are things looking on the Europa League front with the Serie A teams. But before we get into that, Richard, why don't we discuss this? We're going to give everybody the Cliff Notes version of what we observed over match day 11 over last weekend. Hit us up. We'll start with you. 3 things that you took away from last weekend's games.
Well, one of the things is obviously the hot topic is referees, right? Everyone, many games, not just the big games, and the big games in this weekend were Roma-Milan, Atalanta-Lazio, but in every game, it seemed like whether home or abroad, refereeing was a topic of discussion, right? Many fan bases were angry. A lot of the Romanisti were angry. Milanisti were angry too. It went both ways, right? And so a lot of angry fan bases there. But so that's one. 2 for me, Milan and Napoli continue to find ways to get results, win, right? Neither did it particularly beautiful. Milan was looking good early, but then, thanks to Teo Hernandez, they had to scruff it out. And then Napoli, same thing. They had a challenge from Salernitana. No one expected that, and they got a 1-0 win there. And really, Vlahovic and Simeone really they just can't stop scoring. Hellas beat Juve, and Vlahovic got a hat trick against Spezia. So, yeah, just some of the big takeaways. And obviously, I'm going to do a 4th one. Atalanta-Lazio was a fantastic match. I thought Sarri's tactics, even though Atalanta looked like they dominated that game, from an optics standpoint, the tactics were spot on because Lazio seemed like they won that game, and it was late where Martin de Roon with a fantastic goal of the week candidate to tie that game. So, yeah, great weekend of calcio, man.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Atalanta dominating that game, but still needed 94th minute goal from Duron to get a point,
Yeah.
Out of that game with Lazio. So, I'll give you my 3 takes. Top 4, hold. We can stop right now. This is exactly the top 4 that I picked. 1 and 2 are not in the order that I picked. I do have Milan 1, Napoli 2. I do have Inter 3. I have Roma 4. I actually have Atalanta 5 as well. If you want to throw that, so top 5, you can stay that way, and I'm looking pretty good. Fiorentina in 7th. I picked that. The only thing that right now, through the first 11 games that I've got kind of crisscrossed is Juventus and Lazio. I had Juventus sitting 6th. I thought Lazio could probably finish 8th. We're kind of, through 11 games, things are starting to take some shape. We always talk about this. Once we get through about 10 to 12 games, we kind of have a good sense of who we've got and what they are and what their credentials are going to be. And I don't think, there's going to be too much different. I think there's going to be a lot of jostling for, those 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th places, as we go. I think there's going to be some jostling for some teams sneaking into that top half. But right now, the way it looks like, Milan and Napoli are right now just cruising. And at some point, they're going to have their dip and they're going to lose some games. Can an Inter, can a Roma, can they take advantage and close that down? In Atalanta, or can Juventus get on this big run? I want to talk a lot about them when we get to their Champions League game. I've got some things to say. Roma, it's okay. It's looking better, but we have this stigma with getting wins against the Seven Sisters. There's still a problem. They did get the draw against Napoli. Yeah. Romanisti might have felt they were cheated a little bit here against Milan. But, the only thing the results are the same. I think the overall tactical competency is different under Mourinho and better. Eventually, at some point, I find Roma to be a team that's going to figure out how to win games like this. They're going to have to if they want to sustain staying in the top 4, and mount some sort of title challenge. This is something that we've talked about pretty extensively. Did you want to jump in on that before I get to my other points?
Yeah. So I don't know. So this to me was one of Roma's worst games of the season for me. Up until the Teo Hernandez bluff, stupidity.
Yeah. Milan were dominating the game.
Milan was dominating. They scored 2 goals already and had 2 goals taken away. And then people like you said, Romanisti are clamoring that it was the Pellegrini penalty should have happened. Zlatan's was soft, yes. But also, Krunic penalty probably should have, or a foul should have been called on Krunic before the El Shaarawy goal.
Sure.
I mean, Maresca was terrible. He was terrible both ways. There's reasons he's suspended because, 12 yellow cards, and he still missed a handful of calls. He was piss poor, and many referees reported this weekend as well. So, but yeah, that's
the same guy that got that sent off.
He's been anti-Milan. He's been anti-Milan, and yes, Cacciatore as well.
So many years ago, that whole incident when Chievo and Juventus played, and I remember that. He can be kind of a clown. There's no doubt about that. Hellas Verona, 10 points from their last 5 games, man. They're on a roll. And you mentioned Giovanni Simeone. It looks like this man has found a little bit of a revival since leaving the island of Sardinia and joining Hellas Verona. He is the striker that, was coming into the ascendancy in his time at Genoa and at Fiorentina. It didn't go well at Cagliari, and it looks like he has recaptured some form here at Hellas Verona. And you know what? I keep saying victory laps. I'm doing victory laps. I'm one of the few. Apparently, Rafa and Lisi corrected me. They predicted Verona to survive, but I was one of the few that said Verona's not getting relegated, because let's remember who owns these clubs. They get trigger happy, and if they're not happy with what they see, if they're not happy with what they see from the manager, I knew EDF was going to. I expected EDF to get sacked at some point. I'm surprised it was so soon. But eventually somebody was going to get in there, right the ship, because there's too much talent still over there at Hellas Verona, and that talent is showing, and they get a signature 2-1 win, against a Juventus team that is just simply floundering in Serie A. And again, I want to save my Juventus comments until we get to the Champions League portion. And then finally, Cagliari. My goodness. How do you have, this is a team on talent. I firmly believe, a team on talent that should be a mid-table team. And this is the biggest display of underachieving. You sack Semplici. You think you're going to fix the problem with Walter Mazzarri. That's not working. And they're sitting at the bottom of the table, even though I could look at I think on paper, on talent, they're better than Salernitana. On paper, on talent, they're better than Genoa. On paper, on talent, they're better. They're probably better than Venezia. I think they should beat Udinese. So there's at least 4 teams there that
Empoli's another one.
Empoli's another one. There's 5 teams right there that if Cagliari is complete, I'll even throw Bologna into the mix for what they got going forward. Bologna is a freak show defensively, conceding 22 goals in their first 11 games, and I don't think that's going to get any better. There's at least 6 teams that, if they were competently managed and if they were competently organized, those are 6 teams that they should easily finish ahead of in Serie A. Big problems there, and if they get relegated, wow, do we have a bargain bin on our hands with some of the top teams in Serie A. Maldini's going to sniff around and try. The rumors were that they already had some intrigue and some interest in Razvan Marin. There were some blurbs about that in the summer. But there is a lot of talent here at this Cagliari team, and they're just so poorly managed.
Yeah, it's shocking, really, what Mazzarri has not brought to this team, and how this team is so underachieved. For many years we talked about how Fiorentina were that team, right? They were. The last couple of years they've been flirting with relegation. They were so bad. This Cagliari team is, maybe talent-wise not as good as those Fiorentina clubs were in terms of talent, but are just as much underperforming. And they're really serious threat to get relegated if they don't get stuff fixed out. Mazzarri's figure's got to be gone before Christmas. If he's not gone before Thanksgiving. It's just not going well for whatever reason, and it's hard to explain, and it'll be very sad to see Cagliari go, just because it's always fun to watch those games. They usually play so well at home prior to this year. But like you said, it's going to be a fire bin, and lots of talent will be going out of there, and filling up depth charts for several Serie A clubs, hopefully.
Let's go through Cagliari's, and then we're gonna move on. But let's just, because I want to give this a little bit of time at least. Let's go through Cagliari's team right now, and let's just go through their squad and talk about who would you take them on a Serie A team. And let's just start with their forwards. Keita Balde.
Yes.
Joao Pedro.
Oh yeah.
32 years old, but Leonardo Pavoletti.
Yeah, he's serviceable.
Yep. Diego Farias.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Demir Sateri, he's a fringe guy. Probably not. Hasn't gotten enough opportunity. So
I agree.
That's at least my take. But I agree with you with those other forwards. Let's go to midfield. Razvan Marin.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Nahitan Nandez.
Oh yeah.
Marco Rog.
Yeah, he's serviceable.
Kevin Strootman.
I think he's still serviceable, but like as a depth player.
Gaston Pereiro.
Yeah.
Serviceable. Squad rotation guy.
Right.
Right. Somebody would take him for that. Dalbert.
Oh yeah.
Raul Bellanova, young Italian player under 21.
Yeah, he looks good.
Yep. Christian Oliva.
Yeah, he's serviceable.
This one I'll say no to. Alessandro Daiola. I think he's garbage.
Yeah.
I think he's a big part of Cagliari's problems. Alberto Grassi. No. No. Too inconsistent for me, at least. Paolo Farago.
Farago, he's serviceable.
Yep. Another Italian under 21, Riccardo Ladinetti.
Yeah, why not?
Probably not. Diego Godin, you think you could get one good year out of, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, but the legs are gone, it feels like. He'd
be a depth player, for his intelligence.
Sebastian Velukovic. He had flashes, but then he's been disappointing.
Inconsistent. He's been very consistent.
Martin Cáceres, old man, old and dusty. I couldn't do it.
No, I don't like him anyway.
Charalampos Lykogiannis, I like him.
Yes.
Gabriele Zappa, I like him.
Yeah.
Andrea Carboni is decent. He's only 20. He's still got a future. Luca Cepitelli, no. Giorgio Altari, 23 years old, doesn't get a lot of playing time. Okay. Alessio Cragno.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. His backup, Boris Radunovic.
I know he was an Inter for a while, I think, but I guess somebody could use him. I guess Milan maybe as a backup, as a rotation guy, third player.
Simone-Orchester, probably not. 35 years old. So, I mean, that's a lot of. We probably think 75% of that squad
And there'll be bargains.
belong in Serie A and actually can play well in Serie A. It's just so poorly managed and so disappointing. So
shameful.
we've spent a ton of time on Cagliari, I guess, because George is a loyal listener to the show, and we wanted to. I know that he had been reaching out via Twitter trying to ask, so I wanted to make sure I made some time for. I wanted to try to make some time for the teams that we're not going to talk about here in Europe, but I mean. Cagliari's the real ugly, but Hellas Verona is what's good about some of these teams that are not in Europe and the job that's being done over there.
Oh my goodness.
So and Fiorentina goes without saying. So no problem whatsoever. So those were our 3 quick takes on what we saw with match week 11. I think.
Before you do that, do you have a top 5 goals?
I don't. I don't.
Well, I'll give you my rundown. Yeah, I do. So, my honorable mentions were Belotti got his 100th goal. So that's an honorable mention for me. McKennie and Correa both had similar goals. I thought they're really nicely taken. And Zerkowski, had a nice goal for Empoli for the game winner. My top 5: Joaquin Correa's first goal. Number 4, Simeone's second goal. Number 3, 2 team goals. Lazio's team goal, which Immobile scored, and then Fiorentina's team goal that Vlahovic scored. Number 2, Duron in the leveler late goal. And then my play of the week, not goal of the week, play of the week is Montipo, his save on Dybala on the 89th minute. To secure that win for Hellas. I mean, that was going to be a goal, and he reached out, stopped it. That was a beautiful save.
Yes. Yeah, I caught that. I did catch that. So you don't have the Ibrahimovic free kick in there, do you?
I do not. I liked it. I did like it. It's honorable mention, I guess. I failed to mention that. Yeah.
Thought it was a smartly taken free kick.
Oh yeah, it was great.
So, but yeah, that's that's a good top 5. I will not go against you on any of that. So, shall we move on?
Yeah. This will be the portion of in the podcast when you're listening to it that we're going to have our interview with Wayne Gerard from Roma English, where we do a nice Roma deep dive with one of the 7 sisters we haven't had a chance to really do a deep dive on yet. So we invited Wayne Gerard on, and we spent a good 25 minutes talking about Roma, 25-30 minutes. So the video clip is available on YouTube if you want, but on the podcast, this is where you'll be listening to that portion of the interview.
Yep. All right. And now we move on to what we wanted to really talk about for this edition of Serie A Sit Down. Give a little attention to the Serie A teams, how they're doing in Europe. And we had some Champions League games. The round of Champions League games just completed, Richard. Let's start with what went down on Tuesday. And I've got to pull up the game. Let's start with what went down in Bergamo, Richard. Atalanta and Manchester United. Cristiano Ronaldo returning to Italy to play Ladea. Gasperini starts with Musso in goal. He plays a back 3. Darun deputizes back there with Demiral and Palomino. Zappacosta and Mela on the wing-back positions. Koopmeyers and Freuler in that central midfield. Pasalic position in front of him with a combination of Ilicic and Zapata in attack. Thoughts on what Gasperini trotted out for this one against Man United?
A good, strong lineup, I thought. It's good to see Zapata and Muriel out there. It doesn't matter really who they put out there because it doesn't matter. They all produce. Gasperini just has the right touch, and the players play up whenever they get called upon. So yeah, it's a good lineup no matter who they have because they're so deep, and it doesn't matter. They're all good. So I was fine with the lineup.
Okay. I had no real issues with it. I think Zapata's been in really good form. I think you had to start him. Ilicic has got the experience for these kind of games.
He's coming on too.
Yep. He's and more so than a Miranchuk, more so than a Malinovsky. I'll tell you what, I think they've got a gem with this Tun Koopmeyers in midfield.
Yeah.
And if there was an area, and we talked about Atalanta a little bit earlier in the season, we said that the thing that concerned us was, what do they do when you don't have one of Darun or Freuler or you don't have both? And lo and behold, this is what Atalanta do. They go out and they buy smart and they bring in a guy that characteristically has some qualities, for that midfield role, but he also has a little bit of creativity too. I mean, and Gasparini's trusting him on corner kicks. He's trusting him in certain set piece situations. And here we go again. Atalanta going out and buying smart and getting a guy that they can plug in and fit right into what they're doing.
Atalanta doing Atalanta things, right?
Sure.
Yeah, no, we talked about this guy before, so look out for this guy. He's going to become a gem, a great player this season, and he's living up to it. And like you said, like he's so versatile. At first, we thought he was just going to be an attacking midfielder, but now he's sliding in a little bit deeper in there, becoming a real nice playmaker too. I mean, this guy is versatile. He can do it all, and is really becoming a nice compliment for the rest of the players out there. I mean, he can do so much. Like you said, he's getting trusted in these corner set pieces, and he can do great passes. He's got a good shot on him. He's got nice vision. This is a nice find by Atalanta. So yeah, they did it again.
Yep, indeed. Well, Atalanta got out to a hot start at Old Trafford. They would get it out to a hot start here. In the 12th minute, it opens up. Josip Ilicic from Duvan Zapata, 1-0 Atalanta. Great goal and great way to start. And really the way the game started, Atalanta deserved to be ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And say what you will about the last game, Atalanta probably should have won that game as well too, right? A little brain fart by them, but yeah, a great start by them. You saw a goal coming. They were just pressing and pressing. And that's what you want to see from Atalanta. And they've been doing this in Europe. And yeah, to get Ilicic to get that nice goal there, set up by Zapata, well done, well deserved. And they should have been in the lead because they were outplaying Man United.
Yep. 38th minute, a very significant moment in the game. Rafael Varane, the experienced defender that Manchester United brought over from Real Madrid, has to leave the game with an injury. Rather than going like for like with a defender, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer brings on Mason Greenwood and changes the shape, goes to a back four, a bit of a 4-2-3-1 setup, where Mason Greenwood has a role further up, changes the shape. And at that point, I felt the game changed, in Manchester United's favor. I thought up until that injury, it was all Atalanta, and we're like more than happy to see Man United keep playing with this three-man defense that they don't often do. But then Solskjaer changes the shape. Greenwood comes in, and that has a significant impact, for, the shape, but we'll also talk about the equalizing goal, at the end of the game, which Greenwood had a dubious role in. But just before halftime, Manchester United with one of the best team goals that we've seen in the Champions League this season. Ronaldo finishing it off after a very clever, layback by Bruno Fernandes. Speaks to the quality of what Man United can do going forward when they can link up and they can put it together. And I give a lot of credit, but I also look at this and I say, this is an Atalanta defense that's patchwork, that Gasparini's trying multiple things. And as a result of trying multiple things and not having any consistency, he's conceding goals, whether they're of quality like this or whether they're leakers or second balls or things like that. So the defensive frailties of Atalanta here early on in the season come back to haunt them just before halftime.
Yeah, what's a term that the English always say? 6s and 7s back there.
Yep.
They're very poor. Both goals defensively, they were very bad. And also the first leg they played Manchester United, same thing. Again, for stretches of game, they look so good, and then they have these brain farts where they're deadly. Every time they have these brain farts, the other team always seems to score. And so it comes at the wrong time. This comes just before halftime, and obviously a well-taken goal, well done by Manchester United, but it could have been prevented, and it wasn't, just because it was very sloppy back there. And time again with Atalanta, specifically this season, excuse me. Yeah.
I think, okay, so 1-1. Is that a Junior Messias shirt from Uncle Sharma?
No, it's Diego Falcinelli.
Diego Falcinelli. Yeah, that's your old Falcinelli jersey.
That's right. That's right.
All right, so it's 1-1 where, Atalanta, I think when the tactical change was made by Man United, were treading water and would have been happy to get out of their 1-0. Beginning of the second half, this substitution was happening whether they were 1-0 up or 1-1. Jim City comes on for Pasalic, which allows Daron to go back into his normal midfield role. They have three natural defenders playing in that back three. A little bit better shape and organization. Mario Pasalic to me was the right guy to take off. He's the guy that kind of got lost, in the Atalanta setup in the first half against Manchester United, both in attack and both in defense, both in attack and in defense. So for me, that's a sensible substitution when you're dealing with what Man United's throwing at you.
Yeah, and it's nice to have Deru move up and Giuseppe in there, because there are some pieces in there that at times are very serviceable and very good. But like I said, when he's in there, he brings a lot to the team, both on the defensive end and the offensive side. Giuseppe does, and so he's really good in the air. For a guy his size, you expect him to be, right? And he likes to get down and dirty. He's one of those defenders that likes to be physical. He loves the physical game. When it comes down to like pace and stuff like that, he's not that great. But when it comes to playing other big boys, he loves that kind of environment. He loves the contact. So good assertion to have him in the game and put into Ruin in a position that will make him a better player, or better for the team, I should say.
Sure. The shape was helpful. Although in the second half it was Man United more on the ball, and it was Atalanta looking to have less of the ball, try to see if they could take advantage. Palomino finds Zapata, and a great goal by Zapata here. Initially was actually being looked at to see, was it not? I believe it was offside.
They thought offside, yeah.
They thought offside, but they went back and took a look at it, and it was not. It was a perfectly good goal. Duvan Zapata, provider on the first one, scorer on the second one, and for me was Atalanta's best player in this game.
Yeah, and had this been someone like Didier Drogba, you'd say world-class goal. This is a world-class goal in my opinion. Yep. If he didn't score, I think I know this would have been a penalty. He was going down, but his composure while falling down to square the ball, then boom, getting past the goalkeeper. I mean, brilliantly done by Zapata. He is just in a fantastic form at the moment, and he's so composed in any given situation, and what a classy way to finish that thing.
Yep, absolutely. Anthony saying the start that Atalanta got off to showed that they had deserved to get a result. Well, there's no doubt about that. I think that, like I said, when the Varane injury happened and Ole decided to go back to his back four, Manchester United started looking more dangerous. And then I liked the Gasperini sub at the beginning of the second half. It wasn't more so to exploit, some of the spaces that now United were going to leave, which they were going to do that on the counter. It was to add another defender to absorb, Fernandes, Rashford, Greenwood, Ronaldo coming at you, with Pogba running behind them, and some of the stuff that you can maybe get from Shaw and Wan-Bissaka coming forward as fullbacks. So it was a player that could come in that could continue to absorb some of that, and then you can try to take your chances with what they were doing going forward. Because if you look at it statistically in the second half, Manchester United 62% possession in the second half to Atalanta's 38%. They definitely had more of the ball, especially after Atalanta took that lead. As the game went on, it was like, can we figure out how to get out of here with this win and go top of the group heading into match day 5? Is that kind of what you sensed from watching this?
Yeah. And, it also surprised me. I don't know if it surprised me, but anytime Atalanta were in possession of the ball, they just look so good with the ball. They look like they were, an elite team when they have the ball. It just, the way they move around and pass and find each other, and they read each other so well. It's really wonderful to see. There's very few teams that look this good when they have possession. But it was, like you said, they started dropping back, especially when they got the lead. And at that point, you're trying to get out there with a win, especially at home after the debacle from the first time they played each other. So I'm not too surprised that they kind of did that. I don't know.
But does it disappoint you that they do that? Because you don't see them.
Because they're not set up to
ever see them do that in Serie A, and they did it in the they did it in the quarterfinals of the Champions League against PSG. They said, all right, we've got the goal. Gasperini, this is gets into moments when he plays these teams that, by the name brands and the quality, they're very good attackers. But can they do anything when you have the ball? That's the question. And if your strength is with the ball, if your strength is being able to get the ball and take it at people, then stay true. I just wish Atalanta could, in moments like this, stay true to what they were, because I wonder if that would have produced a different result, or have they gotten to a point that they're conceding so many goals that Gasperini just simply said, look, I can't trust what we're leaving back there when we go forward, because they're going to get pulled apart, and we're conceding goals doing it that way in our own league. And now we're playing an attack foursome that is as good as anybody that we see domestically, and, you know, as good as what we see, you know, and as good as what we see in our own training ground.
Yeah.
That there's a little too much respect. I mean,
yes, it's definitely that. I think he certainly thinks that, but they're not set up defensively to shut it down. They're not Inter, right? Inter could do that very well. They got fantastic center backs. They got a whole complement of players that can play that style. Atalanta do not. They don't have the center backs. Yes, they have some gamey players in the middle that can really make it. You know, Freuler, De Roon, add some others in there. But they're defensively, they're not set up that they don't know how to run the tactics that way. So what's their best way to do it is attack. Like you said, we've seen this against some teams. I think it was Ajax, they did it too, and some other teams, Manchester City. The best way to do it to keep others from getting the ball and scoring on you is you keep it and you keep attacking them. You make them tired by defending. That way, when it gets to the end of the game, you have more of the energy, and the opposition is just run themselves ragged and they really have nothing left in the tank. Sure. That's what they should have done. That's what we all believe. That's what we've seen in Serie A. And Gasperini tries to overthink these things. Even against PSG, could have done the same thing. Granted, they have wonderful world-class players that can hit you on the counter, but their best bet would have been to continue in attacking as opposed to playing defensively. And they don't know how to play that way. They rarely play that way, and it never works.
And they kind of look awkward when they do. And in the end, they end up dropping two of the 3 points that they up until then had deserved to get. Ronaldo in stoppage time, but it comes with a little bit of controversy. What appears to be a handball by Mason Greenwood in that setup where I think it struck his arm and it fell to Ronaldo, and Ronaldo scored. Yeah. Whether it's intentional or not, whether it's a natural position or unnatural position, an unfair advantage is created to score a goal. That's a handball in the strictest interpretation of the rule, in my opinion. And, you know, from how I interpret the law, how you interpret the law, I would imagine you're on the same page with me on this. But this was a very poor refereeing non-decision.
Was it Maresca?
What's that?
Was it Maresca?
Wait a minute, I'll tell you.
No, it wasn't him. I forget who it was. It was the where was he from? I don't remember. It was the poor call.
I can tell you.
It should not have been.
It was Slavko Vincic.
Okay.
Slovakian referee.
Right on.
Should not have been allowed.
Nope.
But
great finish.
Manchester United get away with it. It's 2-2. I'll let you give your reaction to it. I mean, I'm just gonna, that aside, it makes me sick to read everybody's fawning over Ronaldo. He essentially was the finishing piece of that beautiful team display in the first half. That first goal had far more to do with Bruno Fernandes than it did Ronaldo. And then the second goal was off of a handball assist. And people were talking about he's done it again. Well, this is what he does. He scores tap-ins. He has changed his game. And I'll give Ronaldo a lot of credit because we saw him do this at Juventus. He is a tap-in merchant now. He is a savvy position guy now. He's not running at people and creating his own chance, taking people on like he did at Man United the first time around, or Real Madrid. It's akin to that basketball player, Michael Jordan, early in his career, just attacked the basket relentlessly. And as he got older, he learned how to make jump shots. Yeah. You score, you're still a goal scorer. You're scoring goals in different ways. To which I'll give Ronaldo a lot of credit for, but let's not kiss the ground that he walks on over these two goals. It's just nauseating sometimes. He was on the end of a beautiful piece of team play that 25 to 30, I could come up with 25 to 30 attackers playing in this Champions League would have scored. And he was on the end of a handball assist that those same 25 to 30 attackers playing in the Champions League would have scored as well. So, it's just, let's not get, Man United fanboys and Ronaldo fanboys, let's not get carried away here.
Sure. And those are very good points. I would counter in that Ronaldo just always seems to show up in these occasions, and the sign of greatness, and what you mentioned was Jordan, is you develop your game, evolves, and then as you get older, you find ways to continue to be prolific. and he's done that. He's now a poacher, an Inzaghi type player, where he's right place, right time, and gets his goals. He still has a shot, and he's always had the flair for the drama, Champions League specifically, but always in the big games he pops up, and he would do nothing for 88 minutes, but still have 2 goals in the game, right? We joked about that with Zlatan, I think, a couple weeks ago too. The same situation, where he was empty, it was null and void for 89 minutes and scored a goal. These great players, as they get older, they find ways to score goals. Now, they shouldn't be gushing over him in the sense that he didn't win the whole game, he did all this great stuff in the game. No, but he came up big again when the team needed him, which is, to me, is a sign of greatness. But I don't think, like you said, should be gushing over him like, oh, look what he did it again. Like, he's just a fantastic player. Take it for what it is. Yeah. Done. When Messi does these things, he's great. Let it be. That's it.
Right place, right time. I mean, there were 2 right place, right time goals, which that involves some experience too. I mean, and it involves some savvy, and it involves what a player of Ronaldo's quality can do. But the actual technical responsibilities, there's a lot of attacking players playing in the Champions League that would have scored those goals. So that's kind of where I get concerned. All right, so Atalanta is sitting in 3rd place in the group, Richard. They are on 5 points. Man United and Villarreal are on 7 points. Villarreal were able to sweep 6 points off of Young Boys over match day 3 and match day 4. So Atalanta find themselves in the same position that they were in 2 years ago, where they control their destiny. Actually, they didn't control their destiny 2 years ago. They still had to get a lot of help. But in this case, they absolutely control their destiny. Match day 5, they're home against Villarreal. Match day 6, they travel to Young Boys. 6 points, they go through. Simple as that. Will they do it?
I think they will. I think this team is too good, and they're at the point in their stage of their development where they expect to get out of the group stages, so they're going to take this very seriously. And I think they're going to get the result. I fully expect them to get. I think they're going to get to 6 points. Honestly, I think they do. Well, it's maybe sacrificing some results in Serie A to do it. I think they'll do that. We've seen that before. That is what they like to focus in, is Champions League group stages areas. So I fully expect them to get 6 points. It's a better position than other Serie A teams in Europe, but with the talent that they have, they're gonna make someone, maybe both those teams they have left, pay a little bit and get a lot of goals in this. So I think they're going through. Do you think they're going through?
I think they'll go through. I think they'll win at Young Boys. I think the game at home against Villarreal is obviously the key game. If they do not win, I think it's going to be difficult, because that'll put them on 8 points. That'll put Villarreal on 8 points. That will put that will put Atalanta on 6, and then they would need to win, unless it's a 0-0 or a 1-1 draw, against Villarreal at home. They could have that happen, and then they would have a head-to-head over Villarreal if they ever got level on points. And then if Villarreal failed to beat United and Atalanta can win at Young Boys, that's another path for Atalanta to go through. But I think there's a note here with Villarreal, with Unai Emery, because now there's a lot of rumors with the Newcastle takeover that Unai Emery is one of the candidates for that job. How much of that is a distraction with this Villarreal team? So that's going to be interesting to figure out. And there's some quality with the Villarreal team. They didn't have Moreno for the Young Boys game. Danjuma is a solid player. Parejo is a very good technician from midfield. He's on their set pieces. There's Yeremy Pino. We saw him play for Spain against Italy. So there's some quality in what Villarreal do. But I don't think it's anything that Atalanta should be terribly afraid of compared to what they just went through over the last 2 games against Manchester United. Yeah,
I agree 100% about that.
All right. Why don't you tell us about what happened between Juve and Zenit?
Juve and Zenit. A little bit of so Juventus had been floundering coming up until this game. We had talked several weeks ago, maybe Allegri's found a way to rejuvenate this team. They're starting to play Allegri-style ball, but then since those comments, Juve has turned back to their early season woes and struggled mightily in the league, at least. And they were looking for some kind of a reprieve in this one, and they found it in the way of Zenit St. Petersburg. They would win 4-2. Goal scoring would start early. Leonardo Bonucci, playing against Juventus all season long, continues to score against them now, giving Zenit the early lead. But after that, it would pretty much be all Juventus. Before that own goal, Dybala had scored. Dybala would get a second goal through a penalty in the 58th. Federico Chiesa, wonderful goal in the 73rd minute, and then Alvaro Morata in the 82nd. 4-1 at that point. Azmoun scored a goal in this 92nd minute. Really, it's just all for fluff. Juventus find a way to win. 26 shots on target in the game. Seemed like they found their mojo back a little bit. Granted, it's Zenit, but it's 11 shots on target. They performed very well. Passing was doing really great. They probably almost had 200 more passes than Zenit did. Just a strong performance for Juventus. Granted, you take it with a grain of salt with who they played against, but that's the result they needed, considering all the shit basically that was been going on in Serie. They needed to find their fan base needed to find something to support, and a result like this was a good way to get back to that. But it's still there's a long way to go. They're not back. They're not back as like we originally thought maybe a month ago or two. A lot to work on, but at least for 3 hours, 2 hours, whatever it is, they found a way to get the result when they needed it, and their backs were against the wall. And of course, it's Paulo Dybala, Federico Chiesa, and Morata leading the way. So, what are your thoughts on this game?
We were talking about a Zenit team that isn't, they don't have the characteristics of a Serie A team in that maybe they do have some, but I mean, they're fun bad. They play a very free and a very open game. They want the ball. They want to create. They don't want to sit back and defend and things like that. So it's kind of hard for me. Did Juventus need this? Yes, they needed it. But it's kind of hard for me to really get excited about saying, "Oh, this is the start of something," because you played a Zenit team that had to go out and attack you, left themselves open, once it was 2-1 to try to get something out of it and get back in the game once Dybala made the penalty. And then they went after you. They tried to get numbers forward. They had Malcolm in the game. They brought in Juba to try to get something. They started just bringing Arokin came in for Claudinho. So, I mean, all the substitutes were very attack-minded and just left them exposed in the back. And this is a Zenit team that already just can't – they concede goals in their own league with regularity. There's not a lot of clean sheets going on in there. So they were going to be left wide open, and Juventus, with the quality that they have, took advantage. I almost think that this is their best lineup, what they started. I'm not on board with Bernardeschi, and I don't like Chiesa on the right with Dybala in front of him. If you're going to start, I think a lot of things, and when I watched it in the midweek game against Sassuolo, I thought a lot of things got duplicated, and Sassuolo were able to overload their shape over to that side, and could just and when you do that, you can defend Morata 1v1 or man mark him or wherever you want to do, because the ball's not going to get to him. If you overload the shape, if you overload the playing area where Dybala is and where Chiesa is, they can't get service over to Morata.
Right.
Okay. So I thought Sassuolo, Dionisi was extremely smart in how he set his team up for that game. Which is, that's the tactical know-how that Serie A teams are going to have. And if they see that, it's all right. The two guys, you're putting the two guys that we have to worry about on the same side of the pitch. Okay. That's going to be easy for us. Okay. And then, I think in the second half of that Sassuolo game, he moved Chiesa back over to the left. Dybala was still on the right. And then things were a little bit more balanced, and you had to show Juve a little bit more respect. Same thing here. Chiesa moved over to the left. He scored from the left-hand side. Okay. I think that Juve's best team is Morata in that striker role being flanked by Dybala and Chiesa. Okay. And then McKennie wants to come forward from the midfield position. I think if you have a McKennie, Locatelli, Bentancur midfield, I mean, we just got to talk about the squad that we have, and then that's what you're going to have to do. And this freezes out Juan Cuadrado. but I think you have to do it. And I think that's what I would be doing if I was Allegri. That's what I would be doing if I had Juventus. That would be my system.
Yeah.
4-3-3, and it's a system that Alexandro's a very good defensive left back.
Yep.
You could probably have Locatelli lurking over there who can do some box to box stuff, and you can give Chiesa a little bit more freedom to stay forward in that setup, where he can be more dangerous. So in this case, in this Zenit game, it's a team that just got so exposed that it was just so easy to create chances against them. When they now come back to play play in Serie A, people will be able to attack Juve and diffuse them. And now, in the words of Carmine Lupatazzi Jr. from The Sopranos, you're at the precipice, Juventus, of an enormous crossroad.
Yeah.
You have a mix of guys that did it the old way and can find a way to win 1-0, okay, or even 2-0.
Yeah.
The old guard of guys like Bonucci, Chiellini. You can throw Alexandro into that mix. He's been there long enough. Dybala to an extent is being the guy that comes up with the creativity that gets you the goal that wins you the game. But now you have a collection of guys here that are better suited for a different game. Morata comes from Spain. All right, and he comes from the Spanish national team. They want to be forward and they want to be ball dominant and they want to create chances where he's at the end of it. Dybala is a creative type of player. Chiesa and Locatelli have been playing within Italy that want the ball and want to attack. And Chiesa and Locatelli both looked at their best in their careers playing for this Italy at the Euros. I'll make that argument. I mean, Chiesa's had some really nice moments at Juventus, but Locatelli, when he deputized for Verratti, was outstanding. Chiesa looked really, really good down the stretch of that tournament. So you've got guys that want to attack, and McKennie wants to find his way into the opponent's penalty area too. It's going to take a lot of courage for Allegri, and it's going to have to take some change with him, but he's going to have to take his chances and say, look, we're going to have to play. We're going to have to attack. This is who we're going to have to be. We're going to have to create this kind of identity. We're going to have to play some attacking football, and we're going to have to be a team that when we score one, we're going to go hunting for a second.
Exactly.
Exactly. When you look at the players on this team right now, Juventus sets up for we go looking for the goal, and then we still try to be game managers. And I think that this roster has turned over too much for Juventus to play that way. With some regularity. There are going to be days where they're going to be able to get away with that when they beat Roma. Okay. But there are going to be a lot of games in Serie A where that's not going to happen. Same thing here in the Champions League. Look at what all the top Champions League teams are doing. Look what Liverpool did against Atletico Madrid today. They scored one. They went hunting for a second right away. They weren't happy with a 1-0 lead.
Yeah.
So Bayern, my gosh.
Bayern do the same thing.
Bayern aren't happy unless they score 5.
Yeah.
So
I like your shot about this being the best possibly 11 that Juventus have, and I like your shot about Chiesa is to me. I think Chiesa is probably best if him and Bernardeschi swap. I think the luxury of having Chiesa, Bernardeschi, and Dybala all out there is that they're all interchangeable, where they can move around on the pitch and really confuse the defense. Not that they're all good in every position, but it could really confuse the defense like that. Chiesa is obviously so mobile; he needs to have that freedom to move around, as does Dybala. And I think Chiesa would do best if he was behind Morata, because Morata likes that kind of player who can interchange with him to create those opportunities like he does with Spain, right? And Chiesa can certainly do his thing no matter where he's on the pitch. And so if Dybala had a little bit more freedom, had Bernardeschi, who is at times very serviceable, he's had moments of really strong play under Allegri, and even for the Azzurri at times, he's still a pain in the ass for all of us. For me, at least, I'm not a huge fan of him, but he does a decent job, And I think if he was on the right hand side and has the freedom to move around with Dybala and Chiesa, that could really cause chaos for the defenders who have to defend them. And then, oh, by the way, Morata, who's just sniffing around for a poaching goal. So It could work. It needs patience. The midfield is still the issue. Locatelli is obviously the answer, but McKennie, he, as much as Juventini, and they're gonna say this is the American bias in me, but he's been scoring some big goals for them, mostly in losses, but he's scoring goals. Who else is scoring goals? Yes. Artur had a terrible giveaway against Hellas Verona, right? Basically the first goal for that they scored. And then, Bentancur is sometimes hot, sometimes cold, very cold. And so who are you going to put in there? And so they need to patch it together until they get to the January window where they can maybe bring in some reinforcements in that midfield to help this team really stabilize. Cuadrado or Danilo on the right, it's going to be good. Obviously, Sandro on the left, and the center backs, they'll do what they have to do. But this might be as close to the best 11 that they have.
I would not. I just wouldn't have Bernardeschi in there. I would have either Rabiot or Bentancur and have a third midfielder.
That's fair.
In front of that back four.
Yeah.
But I would have Morata as your reference point. I would have Dybala attacking from the right, and I would have Chiesa attacking from the left. Just do it. Stop having Chiesa and Dybala. I understand you get great combinations when they can link up, but people are figuring that out now, and they're overloading, and there isn't the room for these guys to play. And VJ, Carmine Lupertazzi Jr. was an underrated character on The Sopranos, by the way.
And what do we see from Mancini with the Azzurri? Right,
you're just gonna totally fly past that one.
I'm gonna come out here and say I've actually not really watched The Sopranos, so I don't know. I don't get anything.
Oh no!
I've watched maybe 2 episodes ever.
Oh no!
I never got it, so I know.
Who are you?
I know.
Who are you? What are we doing? What am I doing? It's nearly 6 years with you. You never watched The Sopranos?
Yeah. I never got into TV shows, so like.
Oh no!
Yeah,
VJ, are you still in the chat?
You're gonna take
Save us.
But I was gonna say, I was trying to dodge the Soprano question. Was that what we saw from the Azzurri with Chiesa is Mancini would like throw wrenches against the defense where Chiesa would be on one side and then flip the script and put him on the other side, confusing the defense. And that's what Allegri needs to do some more of that with Dybala and moving them around. So Yep.
All right. But it's what it is. Okay, so tracking Juventus, I don't think there's much to track here. They qualified with that win. The only thing that's left for them now is if they want to secure finishing top of the group, they've got to keep winning because Chelsea's not going to stop. Chelsea has to make the trip to Russia next. Juve get Malmo at home.
Doesn't best matter is the question. Because, and I say this because there's so many groups with 2 very strong teams, and it's like you finish first or second, you're going to have a difficult team no matter what.
I think you want to try to avoid the group winners at the end of the day.
Sure.
You don't want to draw Bayern, okay? If Real Madrid wins Group D, there's still going to be something about them.
Yeah.
You don't want to draw Liverpool. Could it be Manchester? I think Manchester City wins Group A over PSG. I think you want to try to avoid those draws in the round of 16. Having said that about Juventus, I guess it doesn't matter because who have they lost in the last 3 years? I mean, Lyon and Porto and Ajax. So, maybe it doesn't matter. Someone
else says, look, Anthony says he's never watched the show, so not alone, but VJ chimed in.
I don't know who you people are anymore. It's really cold right now where I'm sitting.
Switch with me. It's very hot where I'm at.
All right.
From all points.
All right. We had an early game today, Richard, with our teams, Milan and Porto.
Yeah. I was not prepared for that game. You told me like the game's on. I'm like, what? The game's on? I'm like, what? I'm expecting.
Yeah, they were the early game. You got to check your schedule. You don't watch Sopranos, and you don't check your game schedule.
I'm living by the seat of my pants. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. You get a kid, you just throw everything out the window. No schedule. It's just
try having two.
Yeah. Milan play Porto today. Obviously losing the last game to a very controversial play. Of course, controversy is going to start around again. This happened in the 6th minute this time. Benacer gets the ball, gets tackled, and I forget who the player was for Porto. Takes out Benacer, gets the ball, blitzes a give and go. Luis Diaz ends up getting the goal in the 6th minute. They didn't really check it at all, honestly. A controversial way to start the game, Frank. 1-0 down. Not only just 1-0 down, but just the manner and the way it happened. And it's happened again against Porto, second time in consecutive games against them. You sent me a text immediately when it happened. What were your thoughts? Run us through what you were thinking as that play was developing.
That was a foul, and I thought that VAR would overturn it, and they didn't. I mean, and I went and made the comment. There were a lot of shocking refereeing decisions across the Champions League that not just Milan were impacted. I mean, I think Borussia Dortmund, Mats Hummels was sent off for a studs up challenge that missed. Okay, didn't make any contact with Antony of Ajax, and Antony actually landed on Hummels. And
he's an understudy of Neymar.
Yeah, and goes down, and Hummels gets sent off. And they even go to VAR and they confirm it's a red. And it's like, he didn't foul him. He didn't make contact. It's like, so was that the Atletico kid who got sent off for just running? I mean, that's a yellow at worst. It's just like, after a while, I stopped feeling like there was a conspiracy theory and that everybody was out to get Milan because of that. But no, in this particular case, and I had to get a half a chuckle because later on, Dave Farrar, who was calling the game, who I miss dearly, I wish he was still doing Serie games. He was great in the time when it was ESPN and DAZN, doing that, and he usually had the main game. But had a half a chuckle. He said when it was Grujic created the opening goal. It's like, not quite. So not in the strictest definition. But and I digested this game a little bit, and a lot of Milan Twitter complaining about the performance of Milan in the first half, but a lot of it is also the psychology of you just conceded a goal that you should have been awarded a free kick for. There's a process of we need to get up and, how do we get up from this? How do we deal with this? I mean, me as a player, knowing that happens, if that impacted my team in a negative way, I'd have a hard time trying to regroup and try to play, to know that's an element that we have to deal with as the game goes on as well. I'm not making excuses for Milan because they were poor in the first half. I felt like Sandro Tonali was the only player in the starting 11 for Milan that was actually trying to play. Everybody else just looked like they went through the motions. I think you got a couple of hard charging runs from Teo. Tomori and Romagnoli struggled together back there. Tatarusanu made some really nice saves in the first half and kept Milan in it, gave him a chance. But it started with that 6-minute incident, and I think that psychologically does rattle a player, at some point. But I don't want to say that was why Milan were so poor in the first half, but I want to say that does play a role. It doesn't help. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, Milan had the lion's share of possession according to statistics, but they were getting outshot, heavily from Porto. And it's funny that of the three difficult teams in this group, Porto being the least difficult of the three, is a team that Milan's had the most struggles with in Champions League so far. The two games against Porto, they've looked not that great. Atleti, they looked great until the red card. Liverpool, they look, they showed a lot of fight in that one. So it's just funny how that works sometimes. But Porto, they're a good team, and they made life difficult for Milan. Milan tried to get back into the game. They would end up getting a goal in the 61st minute. They're going to call it an own goal. I'm going to call it a Kalulu goal, but it's a goal nonetheless for Milan to get back into the game. But it just Milan again coming up short 1-1 in this game. They actually get a point finally in this group. Not quite eliminated, but they are on the ropes. I don't have high hopes that they're going to get out here. Honestly, I would have been fine if they lost this game just so they can fully concentrate on Serie A. But they're still in it. They're not technically eliminated. They can qualify 2 wins and some magic happens and they can make it in. But I'm not holding my breath on that. How about you?
No, they're going to need to pull an Atalanta from 2 years ago and
I don't even think they're making third. They'll be fourth.
They're going to need to beat a Liverpool that, Liverpool has clinched first place in this group. So they could get a less than full strength Liverpool team on match day 5, which would put them on 4 points. And then say you get a Porto Atleti draw. Okay. So now Atleti's on 5, Porto's on 6, Milan's on 4. Milan have to go to Atleti with Porto having to go to Anfield. And if Milan beat Atleti and then Liverpool somehow a less than full strength Liverpool team beats Porto, that's Milan's path to second. It's a very similar path to Atalanta a couple of years ago. Much, much harder to do because Atalanta's group featured a Shakhtar Donetsk that you knew they could beat. And then another team that they got at home on match day, Dinamo Zagreb. I mean, it was a much lighter group, much easier for Atalanta to navigate. This is a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
So statistically, it's there, but I can't see it. I just can't. Yeah. I think that this will get decided by match day 5. I think Porto and whether it's Atleti, beating Porto or Porto get a win at home, Porto gets Atleti in Portugal. Porto can put this away and can decide this, and grab second. And, Ollie is saying Klopp won't field the weak side, though. He'll field the change side. It won't necessarily be weak, but would you play Mohamed Salah at the San Siro when you don't need to?
No.
When you're trying to chase a Premier League at the same time, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So
I think if Milan finds some way to finish second, that's great, and they get lots of money for that and to get out of the groups. But I don't want them to finish third because I don't want them to waste their time trying to get a Europa League title when they had a Scudetto, which I think is a bigger, more attainable goal, especially with what happened last year. You want to kind of put that behind you and continue on throughout the season, not just have a winner half finish, right? Yeah, and it's funny because one of the comments in here said, Milan look off, and it seems like Milan are Jekyll and Hyde in between Champions League and Serie A. I've had some friends who don't watch Serie A who've seen them in Champions League, and then they finally started watching them in Serie A and be like, is Milan really this good, or what's going on with the Champions League? And I'm like, Milan is good. They're just very naive, and they're in a difficult group. They're learning. They're always going to finish poorly in this group. What you see in Serie A is a true Milan. I don't know if it's going to be sustainable for all season, but they are very good. And so, it's hard to explain really other than naivety that this team has, been so young, never been in Champions League for many years. Most of these players haven't been in other than Zlatan and Giroud. So, yeah, that's the only thing I can explain to why they play so poorly or get the results are so poor in Champions League versus Serie A, where they're full of confidence and they attack teams and they dominate the play. We saw glimpses of that against Atleti for a few minutes, but I can't explain it. Can you?
I don't necessarily give Milan a failing grade for how they performed.
I don't either
in this group stage. Also, I think I got to get that. I think I've got to point that out.
I agree with Ali Oxenfree. This is a test run, and this is what we've always said. They're going to finish poorly in this Champions League, but they're going to learn. And what a better way to learn against Liverpool, Atleti, and Porto? I mean, that's what you want to learn from.
Well, and to follow up on that point, that's exactly my comment. When that group came out and said, what are our chances of even winning this competition anyway? So let's get into a group with 3 quality sides, play them home and away. Let's see where we're at against some of the best in Europe, including a Liverpool team that, I agree. When I think I listened to Danny Higginbotham the other day on SiriusXM FC say that there's 4 teams in this competition that can win it, and Liverpool is one of them.
They're one of them.
So how did we look against them? Yeah, after being under siege for 30 minutes and weathering that, we actually were ahead of them at halftime. And we had chances after being down 3-2 to make it 3-3.
Yep.
So sometimes you've got to look at performance when you're being reintroduced to a certain competition and say, hey, it's not that far off. The numbers don't look great. The results don't look great, but the performances don't, the performances are not that suggest that we're not that far away, or that that Milan is not that far away. And I think that was always what you wanted to pay the closest attention to, that this was always going to be a challenge for Milan to be one of the top 2 teams in this group, or even grab the Europa League place. And, I think that this is only, to Ollie's point, playing the best will only be good for Milan's kids. Absolutely. And that's what we're, and we're gauging where they're at. And as they continue to gain experience, they're going to learn from stuff like this. And I mean, look at Inter, when they return to the Champions League, they out in the group stage these last couple of years, they're going to probably go through this year. So why not? And hey, as long as I'm bringing up Inter, we'll segue.
Nicely done.
Yeah. Well, it was actually a very ugly segue, but that's why we don't get paid. Inter at Sheriff, 3-1 win for Inter. Inter came out with Handanovic in goal, the traditional back three of Skriniar, De Vrij. Thank you, Simone Inzaghi, for sending these guys to Moldova and running them into the ground before the derby on Sunday. I don't think they really got run into the ground, but Skriniar, De Vrij, Bastoni, Darmian, and Federico Di Marco as the wingbacks, Vidal, Brozovic, Barella in midfield, Dzeko and Lautaro up front. Lautaro should have scored a hat trick in this game. Is really what it comes down to. And this was 0-0 at halftime with Inter. Inter Twitter was like, "How have we not scored?" And how have you not scored? 13-1 first half shots, just one on target. That's probably why you didn't score. So second half, then they figured out how to get shots on target. They got 7 on target. 3 went in, starting with Marcelo Brozovic in the 54th minute. Skriniar in the 66th minute after that ball got bounced around in the penalty area. And Alexis Sanchez coming on, ironically enough, for the Lautaro Martinez, who should have scored the hat trick, got on the pitch and scored. And then Adama Traore, not that one, scored for Sheriff to make it 3-1. Wolves fans all just had a stroke.
I was like, wait, what? What happened?
Any Wolves fans listening to this podcast just had a stroke. So 3-1 to Inter. Richard, overall assessment on Inter's performance today?
It was a good warm up for them heading into the big derby. I think first half, obviously, you're starting to get the thoughts in the back of your head. Oh, here we go again. We're going to struggle unnecessarily. But then they found ways to get goals, and then the floodgates open, really. It's a good warm-up for them. Like I said, yes, we're hopeful that they can maybe drain some of these players' energies, but we doubt it. It's just like a spirited practice for them. They got to get some goals in them. Joaquin Correa, I expect, is going to feature heavily against Milan. He should, at least, because he's a Milan killer. And Hakan's probably going to do well against Milan, but we'll get to that later. I thought in this game, Inter looked good. Lots of shots off. They figured out a way from missing the target in the first half to hitting the target in the second half. And that's important. When you're struggling to get it on goal, good things happen. Gretzky always said that, right? Your best shot, you can't score goals if you don't put it on target. So Inter did that. It started getting goals. 3 goals of the 7 shots on target went in. So that's what happens when you get them on target. So they figured it out. And it's, about time. Interisti are probably happy now that they're looking like they're going to progress, as you mentioned. And I think it's good for Serie A if they do progress out there. They have a team that's strong enough who could go far. Of all the Serie A teams, they're probably the best built in terms of overall and different tactics to go deep. Atalanta have the talent for sure, and then Juventus can scrape it out under Allegri's tactics. But Inter, this is a good team, and it's a good result before a big game for them. So kudos to them.
Yep, with you on all of that. So they're second to Real Madrid. We've got this Sheriff fairy tale that's still lingering, although Inter have significant head-to-head over them as far as qualification. Shakhtar Donetsk. Sheriff, I believe, travel to Shakhtar next. And I believe that Inter are traveling to Real Madrid. Yes. So Inter are in a great position to go to Real Madrid. If they win that, they host Shakhtar Donetsk. You would think they'd go through and win. If they win both games, they control their destiny as far as winning the group. There's still an element of they could get bumped to third if Sheriff pulls off a surprise. They do have to go to Donetsk on match day 5, which really is never easy, but maybe a little bit easier this year than in years past. So Inter would be best to go and get themselves a result on match day 5 in Spain. Whether they do it or not is going to be another story. What it ultimately, I think, is going to boil down to is they got to get those 3 points at home against Shakhtar Donetsk, because I think that in itself should be enough to get them through. Because if they do that, that'll put them on 10 points. And say they lose to Real Madrid wrap up the group. Sheriff get a win against Shakhtar Donetsk, and if Real Madrid and Sheriff tie, the only way that Inter are going to go into third and go into the Europa League is if Inter lose to Real Madrid and Sheriff win out. They win at Shakhtar, and then they win at home against Real Madrid. So Inter's in pretty good position, but it wouldn't hurt for them to get some points in Spain.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It'd be what a fantastic fairy tale if Sheriff were to get 6 points this last two games, but I don't see it happening. And I think Inter in a very strong position here going to get out of the group. Whether they finish first or second is to be determined, but I think they're going to get out of this group about time, right? And it's figures it's with Inzaghi and not Conte. So,
yep, agreed. So that's where we're at on Inter, and that's where we're at on the 4 Champions League teams. I mean, they're all mathematically still alive. I think at the end of the day, I think that 3 of them are going to go through.
Yep.
Juventus, Atalanta, and Inter. I think Milan's done. I don't even think they qualify for the Europa League. Don't want to be negative about that, but that's probably going to be helpful for them in terms of their pursuit of Serie A. Look what it did for Inter a year ago.
Yeah, I think that's the best case scenario if you're Milan. Is one, we hope all 3 Italian teams go through, but you don't want to have another competition to bog you down while you're trying to focus on the main goal, which should be Scudetto at this point. So yeah, I think they're going to finish 4th, and I'm not going to be too troubled by that.
Now let's move on to the Europa League, Richard. Some on Napoli Twitter were talking about that if Milan don't get a result against Porto, that Napoli should that Spalletti should pick the worst possible 11 to play in Poland on Thursday, and just try to get out of this Europa League group. So let's ask the question, because I think actually what they don't know is I think 3rd place in the Europa League goes to the Conference League knockouts, if I'm not mistaken. So, and they're sitting in a group that's really, really tight. They're going to travel to Legia Warsaw. They're playing. They've got 4 points.
Yep.
They're tied for second with Leicester City. They kind of have an advantage because that at Leicester they tied 2-2. And then you've got Spartak Moscow sitting at the bottom of this group. It's also a goal difference thing right now, which is why Napoli edge Leicester. But let's take a look at it. Napoli at Legia Warsaw, and then also Lazio travel to Marseille. Last time these 2 teams got together, it was painful. I don't think there's a better way to put it. What are you expecting from the Europa League participants in these games on Thursday?
We said this a while ago, as soon as these groups were announced, that Legia Warsaw is one of the most difficult places to play in Europe, especially for a club or a country being so small in terms of, it's not one of the top 5 leagues. It's very difficult to play at Legia Warsaw. That crowd is very daunting there, and so you imagine it's going to be difficult for them. But I think Napoli have absolutely the talent to. I mean, they can go to Leicester and win and get a result. They can go to Legia and get a result. It's going to be difficult, but they can figure out a way to do this. And I think it would serve Napoli's interest better. Yes, I know they're also thinking the same way Milan, and hey, maybe we get out of this tournament and we can focus on the Scudetto. But I think they're different stages of development, both Napoli and Milan. Napoli are at a stage that they've had experience now in Champions League and Europa League. They're at a point now where they need to try to learn how to get deep runs in these tournaments and be competitive in both, right? In both, there's also Coppa Italia, but Scudetto and Champions League or whatever European competition you're in, you want to be able to go far in both and get the money and get the prestige. And I think that's the stage that Napoli's in at the moment, is trying to find a way to compete in both at the same time. It serves their interest to serve in both, because I think they'll be a Champions League team next year. And so if they can figure out a way to go really deep this year, it'll serve them very well next season. And so I think that's how they need to think. And I know, like you said, some Napoli fans are hoping that maybe they get out of this and whatnot. But like you mentioned, if they finish in 3rd place, they're going to go into the Roma tournament, we've been calling it, right? The Conference League. So I don't think they want that either. So
Yep. I think these games to these Eastern European countries are always tricky. and I see Napoli coming away. I think they draw tomorrow, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
I think you're going to see Patania. You're going to see guys like Deme getting a chance to play. They'll mix it up in a couple of different areas. And it's not like this Legia side is anything to write home about, but they're top of the group for a reason. But I see a draw there, and then Lazio at Marseille. The first game was so bad when these guys. I watched it, and I'm sorry I did. It was let's see, there was nothing. There was hardly anything on goal that troubled either goalkeeper. You would expect a little bit more of a spectacle with some of the players that were involved. I think that one just drags to another draw. Which sets the tone. Lazio keeps Marseille at bay, and then they get Galatasaray at home, which they would have a chance of beating. I think they would go ahead and beat. And I think that Lazio, between that and then finishing up against Lokomotiv Moscow, could win Group E, and get themselves a bye to the round of the 16. So here's how this works. The way they've got it situated with the Europa League this season, the top two teams in each group advance. There's 8 groups. First place gets a bye into the round of 16. Second place will be in a draw with the third place teams from the Champions League groups for preliminaries. So Lazio gets a point here. They can step up with some confidence, beat Galatasaray, beat Lokomotiv Moscow. They'll win the group and avoid having to play that extra match. And I think that's what's on the line for them.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the mentality they should look at. I think they can do it. I certainly think they can do it. Marseille is a difficult opponent, but they can get a point out of this one. The other 2 games are absolutely winnable, and that would serve them well to come out of this group first place and get a bye or I guess it's a bye in the next round. And I think it'd be good for them too to get some European experience. Sarri's going to have that. Winning with Chelsea in the Europa League a few years ago. I like Lazio's chances of progression out of this group and getting a draw at least tomorrow. Can they get a win? Yeah. They can also lose too, but I think they're going to play it tough. It's going to be a tough game no matter what. And I certainly see a score draw in this one. Maybe we see a Marici sighting. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. It could be there could be a Marici sighting. I guess we'll talk. Roma get to host Bodo Glimt tomorrow as well after
revenge.
Bodo Glimt thrashed them in Norway 6-1. I think Roma will go on and win this game, and I think that they'll reclaim control of the group that they're in with Zorya Luhansk and Česká Sofia.
Do you think they win easy, or you think it's going to be tight?
3-1, I'm going to go. I think that they'll have kind of learned from that slip up. I think that I think that after, kind of the ringer that they've gone through in league with some of these games and some of these tough games, I think they need a win. They need to win a game, and I think Mourinho understands that to try to kind of get things kickstarted again.
Yeah.
And I think that they'll do it. I think they'll do it with a little bit of style, but I think that it's going to be, it's going to be Mourinho-esque, but it's going to be 3-1. I think that they'll go on and beat Bodo Glimt. By then, they'll regain control of that group.
I think it'll be tighter than they want or Romanisti want. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Bodo Glimt get the first goal, make everyone panic, and then they find ways to get 2 goals and get the win, get the victory. An easy or comfortable victory, but tighter than anybody wants.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we'll see. Yeah, we both agree that they're going to go on and win the game.
Yeah.
So
hopefully.
All right. So that was our European roundup. That's where we think things are at right now with those teams. Let's jump into the next topic real quick, Richard. A game that is near and dear to both of our hearts. Derby della Madonnina. Yeah. November 7th, 2:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. my time. Remember, turn back the clocks Saturday night.
Yes.
An hour you do not want to be late for this game. So a game, I mean, right now, Napoli aside, Napoli will have a game hosting Hellas Verona that honestly, as much as I've praised Hellas Verona, I think Napoli are going to win. And you've got Juventus against Fiorentina on Saturday, which is going to be another tasty one.
Yeah.
By the way, can Juventus fans on Twitter shut up about Vlahovic going to their team? they're getting worse than Premier League team fan bases. They are.
That's stretch. That's a stretch right there.
They've gotten to the point where they know that they've been performing so poorly that they're gonna be that team that now says, well, we're gonna go get this guy and this guy and this guy, and everything's gonna change. So, all right, and you've been doing that for years. Let's talk about it. Milan, Inter, at the San Siro. It's a home match for Milan.
Yeah.
31 points, Inter 24. This is the opportunity for Inter to claw back into this title race. Hard to say early in the season because a lot can still happen, but 7 points back going in. First of all, do you think there's a psychological advantage with Milan getting to play at home in the Champions League, Inter having to make that travel to Moldova and now having to make that travel back? Do you think I think that's overrated personally. Some people like to look at that. Okay, if it was Europa League, and that was the case and it's a Friday, Saturday, and then the game's on Sunday, I think, that'd be a little bit different, but there's an extra day here. Inter won rather comfortably too. So to me, that's an overrated assessment, but that's something that some people will talk about is, they got to come back from Moldova and, how are the legs be like? Well, Milan had to play that day too. So, they got to sleep in their own beds that night, but they had to play that day as well. So, I mean, where are you at on it? I think it's overrated.
Yeah, it's very overrated. As we've seen with these derbies, nothing matters going into the derby because it's a different animal, and the teams. I mean, one team could be on fire, other team could be in piss poor. As I mentioned, the Calcio connection last night, and it doesn't matter. We've seen the team in poorer form win, or someone who had more difficulties, more injuries, find a way to win. The derby doesn't matter. You throw everything out the window, and that's what matters the most. And you mentioned, Inter have a chance to bring it back within 4. Someone in the chat mentioned it could be expanded to 10 points, right? This is a very huge game. While all optics read maybe a draw on this one, a win by either team could really open or make this a tighter race. And that's so many things are on the line here. But I think that argument about, they had to travel, this and that, it's overrated. It's not going to happen. Like we joked about, Handanovic and the back three and all these players played. It's not going to affect them.
The chat's talking about Hakan Çalhanoğlu. I just wanted to find out, first of all, because is he out with COVID?
That's the first I've heard of it.
That's the first I've heard of it as well.
I would love it if that's true. Not that he has COVID, but because I have a nagging feeling that if he plays, he's going to play well, like really well. That's one of my fears. And Joaquin Correa is the other one. But if Hakan's out of the game, I think that bodes well for Milan.
All right. Hakan Çalhanoğlu does blank in the derby.
If he plays, I have a fear he's going to contribute to 2 or 3 goals. Score 1, maybe 1 or 2 assists if he plays. That's my fear. Because he's got a chip on his shoulder, wants to show people he should be missed, and he was the reason why they did so well or something. I don't know. That's my fear. Do I honestly think that? I mean, based on what he's done this year, which is nothing, more than likely nothing's going to happen. But I had this fear. It's always when you play your old team, some players play better, and I just something in the back of my head with Hakan that he's going to come back to bite Milan. It's always happens with Milan in the derbies. It seems like.
Okay.
What about you?
I think he struggles for VJ's reason. It's a Milan home game. And I think that there'll be some psychology there. Now, if he listens to the whistles and all of that other stuff, I'll say this. All the other stuff that the fans are going to subject him to every time he's on the ball, and he starts having a positive impact on the game, I think that's going to settle him. And that is going to be something that Milan are going to have to worry about. But I don't think actually struggles is not. I think he'll be all right. Yeah. When the ratings come out, when the player ratings come out, and you tell me that he's going to be in the 6.5, 6.6 range, where some decent things, but not great. That wouldn't surprise me. So I'd put him into that. So that's what I think. But it's a de facto home game for Milan. It's a home game for Milan. I shouldn't say de facto. It's their home. It's their home match.
Yeah.
So there'll be more Milan fans there than Inter fans, supposedly.
We remember what happened when Gigio and the Azzurri came to Milan and they booed the heck out of him, and he struggled.
Yep.
And someone in the chats mentioned Hakan struggles against these, the crowd sometimes. And so if the crowd gets on him, maybe it's against him. But as you said, it could help him if he starts playing well. So it'll be interesting to see if he plays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, we got some people. If he misses one shot, he'll be mad with himself and he'll self-destruct. He's a wild card in this game, just because of the narrative that's going to be going on with him. So that'll be interesting. We'll see. Inter wins if blank.
Joaquin Correa plays. Oh, no, that's not true. Inter stick to their game. What we've seen in the last few weeks, that Inter, in the beginning of the season, they look like a very attack-minded team, can score goals in bunches and this and that. But we've seen in the last few weeks is that they have a plan B. They can play defensively. They can set up shop kind of like Allegri's Juventus used to do. Get the 1 or 2 goals and then set up shop and let it be. Don't allow anything else. If Inter wins, if they dominate the midfield and get an early goal to get that lead and kind of set up shop, they have some big game players in that midfield. Barella, Brozovic jump out obviously, but they have a solid defense, one of the best in Europe. And depending who's on striker, Dzeko's having almost a resurgency in his career now with Inter after having 2 flub years at Roma. Lautaro is a good player, and if Joaquin Correa is a Milan killer, look what he's done with Lazio against Milan. He's always scoring goals and sometimes game winners. Inter dominate this midfield game, get an early goal. This could be a low scoring and a difficult game for Milan. Could be.
I was going to just say, I said Inter win if Brozovic and Barella get forward and either get or create chances. Because if that happens, now you unbalance this Milan team a little bit. Okay. And that might open things up for their forwards. So Milan's attack won't allow Inter to play their game. 9 of Milan's best 11 will be available. It won't be like last year's 3-0 when half of Milan's team were out injured. Okay, fine, they did. But having said that, this may also set up very well for what Inter might be best at doing, especially with a manager like Simone Inzaghi, and that's counterattack. So if Milan start committing some people forward and start creating some things and start creating some danger, and start creating, on that end. I mean, now you got Dzeko and Lautaro going the other way. You're going to have, and we'll have to see if Calabria is going to be fit for the derby. He left the game today injured. Kalulu is going to deputize in his place, and he looked great today. But now a full 90 minutes in a derby. I am fully expecting Ivan Perisic to start as the left wing back for Inter, and he is going to be going right at Kalulu. That's another aspect that Milan are going to have to be on guard for. But if the midfield for Inter are getting chances or creating chances, that's going to start asking some questions of this Milan team. And they've been shaky since Tatarusanu has been the goalkeeper. They've been much more sure of themselves, much more composed and organized under Magnan. So if Inter finds ways to get Barella and Brozovic to be dangerous, not necessarily, I mean, Çalhanoğlu, obviously, because he's going to be part of that, this could be a game that Inter can be successful in. And
watch the play of the wingbacks too. If it's Darmian or Dumfries or DiMarco, whomever, the 2 wingbacks, watch them because they like that in these situations they tend to creep in from the back door and get that pass across and find a way to score. We've seen the wingback to wingback play before, successful against Milan, so that's also a threat for Milan.
I think it's Darmian and Perisic to start. Yeah. I don't think they start Dumfries in a game like this. I think his defending is too. Yeah, I think Leao would roast Dumfries. I think that Darmian could probably deal with him a little bit better. So, Milan win if blank.
Well, Zlatan, you expect Zlatan to do Zlatan things if he starts. And I also think Leao, prior to the season, while he's been inconsistent and stuff, he's always been a big game derby player. He's always showed up for the derby for whatever reason. And now he's on, so I expect Leao have a big game. But I think Milan wins if, one, they don't get stupid with getting a red card. Obviously, Theo Hernandez is not playing, so that's a blessing, I guess. Guys, and I don't want to say the midfield thing because it's whoever wins the midfield wins the game, right? No, I think if the players you don't expect to, not the big name players to really play well, Salamakers, Brahim Diaz, whoever's on the left back, whether it's Kalulu or it's Balotore, these guys who are the lesser known players step up and get into the game. If Salamakers has a really great game, or Brahim Diaz takes over and shows that he's better than Hakan Çalhanoğlu, those are the ones that really going to change the game, because I think all the big name players for both teams will cancel each other out, and it's really the players that you're not expecting to step up and get the game and get the deciding plays. I think so. Yeah. I think if those players step up, Milan have a strong chance of winning.
I think they win if how's the best way to put this? I think they win if they win the midfield battle. I really think that this comes down to whose midfield is better. Okay. Pioli, I think in the derby that in one of the derbies that they won, he had Benacer shadowing Barella. You could see a little bit of that where the other midfielder was doing some supporting, and then they kind of mixed it up a little bit, which could allow the center backs to focus on the two strikers. Yeah. I could see that. But I think that if they can win the midfield battle, and somehow if Tonali starts, which two of the starts in the double pivot? I think you start Kessie and Benacer. I think you put the work rate, because you've got Brahim back. Yeah. Okay. And I think Brahim was fine today. I don't think he was spectacular. I think that there were some things against Porto where some timing looked suspect and whatnot. But I would say, and I think Inter's midfield is slightly better right now. I agree with I believe that's respectful. Okay.
Respectful, yeah.
So
Tonali, or who you said, Benacer and Kessie?
I'm going to say Benacer and Kessie. I think you're going to want work rate, ball winning, where Tonali has made some strides, but he's not totally there. Yeah. He's useful in a deep lying playmaking midfield role. So Vijay, to answer your question, I want to see Kessie and Benacer, and I want to see Brahim playing in his 10 role. Because I think Brahim in the 10 role will keep Brozovic honest, and keep him from venturing. So you do that, you have that element, and if Milan can execute that, they're going to have the best chance to win.
I think the three midfielders for Milan, they're great. Tonali, Kessie, and Benacer. But I think I would rather start Kessie instead of bringing him on late. I think Benacer and Tonali certainly come on late and add something. But I think having Kessie start is important for setting the tone, because he's been up and down this season, but he gets up for games like this, and you need a strong Kessie to defeat Inter. I think he's so crucial when he's on. He helps the team win games, no doubt about it. So you need him to start, and it's a toss up. I would say Benacer, just because they've been so good together for a long time. Yeah, and then bring on Tonali. Tonali will make an impact in the game, no doubt about it. So I agree with you. I think Benacer, Kessie should start, and I think Tonali coming off the bench. If Kessie's struggling, bring him on earlier. Even prior to 60th minute. But I think Tonali ends up coming on for Kessie at the end, and Benacer plays the whole 90. Or can he last the whole 90? I don't know. Did he play the whole 90 in this game against Porto today? I don't know, but yeah, I agree with you with this. Who should start with those three?
Who wins?
It's a derby. I could see it going both ways, and I until I see the starting lineup, I really don't know. And I think
pick one.
Score draw.
You're not gonna go for it. Huh?
I don't want to jinx it.
Oh man,
I don't know.
I'm with you. Score draw.
It's hard.
I think we get a 1-1 game. I'm right now.
I'll go 2-2.
What's that?
I go 2-2.
2-2. I'm right now leaning towards an Inter win. Hard for me to say as a Milan supporter. I just think that I think that the lack of cohesion with Tatarusanu in goal is going to get exposed.
He is
and I think
huge
that's
liability.
I think that's the glaring thing in this game. Let's just put it: Tatarusanu plays the best game of his career on Sunday. Milan can win. Okay. Yes. But if he's, and I thought today he played really well against Porto, and I think that he showed some signs. I think that he's unlucky to concede the goal he gave up. But if he shows some of the flakiness that we've seen in some of these other games, and Milan are in some trouble. I'm going to say score draw. I'm not totally making this prediction yet. Maybe this weekend on Twitter I'll jump on and say what I think is going to happen. When I see the lineups, I'll make the call on what I think will happen. But I'll go 1-1 for now. I think it'll be cagey. And I think that Inter will control the match. But I think that Milan will find a way to get a point out of it.
I think the opposite. I think Milan's going to control the match and Inter's going to play on the counter.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, I think that Inter's going to be better at their game than Milan.
Yes,
I guess probably a better way to put it.
And it's so many unknowns in this game because you got you got the X factor in this, in it's Inzaghi. Yes, we know Inzaghi from Lazio, but how is Inter going to play against another big team under Inzaghi? We kind of saw glimpses of that against Juve and some other games this year. But that's going to be interesting to see that dynamic. How does he set his team up? Is he going to go attacking? Is he going to play counter like we think he is? So many unknowns in this game. And with the lineup, we don't know who's starting. Are the Milan killers going to be starting in this one? It's difficult to call. And when we get in those situations, you lean towards a draw.
Yep.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Oh, that's going to be a heck of a game. I'll tell you that. Yeah. So looking forward to it. So that's the Derby della Madonnina preview. We now close with the world's greatest hashtag game. Who won? Calcio Twitter. Richard, lead us off.
All right. Leading off, this comes from Not Gianni, and it's a video of Alexis Sanchez toying with Juventus. Says me fucking with Juventus Twitter every day.
Good start.
Yeah, good start. Good start.
All right. At Joe_Cappuccino logging on to Calcio Twitter. What's in the box? The worst Calcio take you've ever seen. If you comment on it, you die.
It's true. True story. True story. All right. Next one gets nominated to us by Joseph Fischetti. And it comes from Stephen Moore and says, that look Nona gives you when you say, I'll just have a little.
Yes, we've all gotten that look from Nona, haven't we? So at Mesunate, Giancarlo was 25 when Mourinho left for Real Madrid. And apparently this is some video.
That's something Inter created.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I got you. Oh, Giancarlo. So she's going to the game. So it's been a long time since Mourinho has been there. That's what I get it now. She's a little bit older.
All right. That was good. George has a nominee.
George has a nomination. He nominated himself. It says, after Cagliari beating Sampdoria on the 17th, they thought they would finally turn it, but nope. We suck again.
Yeah, we got on a rant about them today. So
we did.
Okay, at our Charms, Uncle Charmer, our good friend coming in. Juve just got dunked on by a 12-year-old. Maxime Lopez is with. He does
4'2",
look like a kid.
4'2", yeah.
He does look like a little kid, doesn't he?
Oh, well done, man. Well done. Yes. All right. Next comes from the Big Show _Nerazzurri says, acting like my 4-year-old when he can't have snacks before dinner. And
my 6-year-old and my 9-year-old.
We know the tantrums very well. It's close to home.
Jersey SoCal, George. Apparently they are shooting for last place this year, and they are doing a great job at doing so. A gif of Joao Pedro doing the archery thing.
Oh, Saturnion getting involved says, Shocking scenes at the Juventus Stadium as Stewart stopped the Juventus fans from leaving the stadium to keep watching Allegri ball.
That never gets old. That never gets old, man. Some of the regulars chiming in. We like it. All right. Jerry has been nominated by Nicholas Di Giovanni. Ronaldo 2021-22, kids 2, trophies 0.
So the previous tweet was Cristiano Ronaldo announced that he and his wife are having expecting twins. So there you go. Kids 2 trophies 0.
Okay.
All right. This one comes from Scott Monroe is nominating this one. It's from Alessandro99. My parents in the morning. Alessandro, buongiorno. That's funny.
Clever.
Yeah,
Clever. All right.
Very clever.
Okay. All right. So best shade thrown this week. Hashtag who won Calcio Twitter and a one-away right at Serie Sitdown. This is from @AtalantaPassion. It is Venezia FC. Why is ESPN editing these photos? Guess the fashion photographers from Venice and Milan needed someone in world art capital Bristol, Connecticut to apply the finishing touch.
Zing. Oh, yeah. So Venezia originally tweeted out these pictures and then ESPN, I guess, docked them themselves. And yeah, Venezia didn't take too kindly to that. So
what did they do? How do they doctor them?
I don't know. They did something to touch it up, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Not sure what they did, but yeah, Venezia didn't like it. So
okay. I wasn't sure about that.
Yep.
Zio has made the list.
Zio says, all right, so original tweet was from Juve Therapy. Says Morata is as useless as the G in lasagna. Well, you talk like Zio, he's going to get involved. He says, I like you, bud, but the G is very useful in lasagna. Otherwise, it would sound like lasagna. So G hits the spot. Talk like Zio. G hits the spot.
Fair enough. Okay, at Gianni Rules 27, Massimo De Santis giving a yellow card. It's from 90s football. Who's your favorite ever Juventus player? Massimo De Santis. Guess I should scroll down and read the whole thing and be prepared, right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Nice entry.
All right. Inter Dave nominated this one. It's Dr. Ilke says it's Icardi visit Rwanda, him crying, visit Wanda. Wanda Gates or Icardi Gate, whatever you want to call it. They're on and on, they're off again, And I think they're off right now, but who knows? But very funny.
Insane. Insane. Let's see. Okay, so Rafa is nominating Patrick Kendrick, saying punctuation matters. When you look at this picture of Inter team, come on, lads. Hashtag Inter Udinese. What did I miss?
I'm reading Patrick Kendrick's response. I just got it. I just read it. I was like, oh, come on, lads. He missed the comma.
God.
He missed the comma.
Jeez.
Sorry. That flies to the top of my list just because I just got that. Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, where are we at? Art Morelli now?
What's that?
Where are we at? Art Morelli now?
Yeah, we're on Art Morelli.
Simon Kjær leaving Rome with all the Romans in his pocket.
Very nice, Arthur.
Oh, gosh.
All right, Uncle Sharmer, Gagliardini and Vicino auditioning for the Spurs transfer under Conte.
Boy, I'm a just island boy. I'm a just island boy. I'm a
this never gets old.
Boy.
Okay, that's enough of them. Definitely watch the video. These guys are something else. Gagliardini and Vicino, huh? I got it. I got you. All right, I nominated this one. There's a few of these from ESPN UK who are very poor at their editing skills. Anyway, so Italy Propaganda says how English MFers view Italians, and it says, should Manchester United make Antonio Conte the next manager, with a picture of Inzaghi? They did this again recently with the hiring at Tottenham. So,
and naturally, everybody likes to have fun with this. So at Lolono _ Juve legend Antonio Conte, it's a picture of Filippo Inzaghi.
Yes. Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. And the next one comes from Jerry Mancini. It says Igor Tudor and Max Allegri today. Killed the dinosaur.
Oh man. Okay. Okay. At Saturnian with another entry. How Roma fans think Ibrahimovic scored that free kick goal for Milan.
Is that? It looks like what's his name? Former Milan player. His name's escaping me. The defender, Mexes. Looks like
Yep.
Felipe Mexes.
Couple guys in the wall playing some grab ass with the wall.
Oh, that's good. Rafa nominating this one, Kendrick again. So the original tweet was, curiously, Antonio Conte is going to manage a club with a rooster on its crest for the second time in his career. The first time was when he managed Body. And he says, it's also remarkably similar to his hairline. Patrick Kendrick bringing it this week.
Yeah. All right. Nicholas Di Giovanni is nominating his one of his partners in crime, Gianni Della Colle. Emery Uai Pierre. Oh, you better read this. You know, you're the polyglot.
Emery Oui Pierre. C'est à Toby le Jardin des Italiens quand ils ont gagné la Coupe du Monde. Ah, c'est à Jean-Louis Buffon. Faites merci. So this is their homage to Buffon, apparently. Hopefully we're trying to spell Buffon, honestly.
Very unfortunate spelling.
Maybe that's the French-Canadian version of Buffon. I don't know.
At Torgrud 45 getting on the board. This you? Roma 1-2 full-time. Bodo Glimt 6-1 full-time. Roma won a trophy. How long since AS Roma won a trophy? 13 years, 166 days, 6 hours, 41 minutes, 17 seconds. It's the bonsai tree.
Yep. So the original tweet was from Flavio, a Roman fan. It says, I thought Milan was going to show other Italian teams how it's done in the UCL. And then so Mr. Sempre Milan responded with pictures of victory over Milan, Bodo Glimt beating Roma, obviously how long they've been without a trophy, and missed the bonsai trophy.
Yeah, our good friend Giuseppe, just Juve. I caught him on Twitter saying, "I just got home from work. Is Milan losing again in the Champions League?" I retweeted that. I retweeted that and said, "I just got home from lunch. Is Juve still in ninth? And if they still lost 7 Champions League finals?"
And the love or the lack thereof between Romans and Milan fans was hot, obviously, out of the game. And so Don Totti. He's back.
2020 champion.
2020 champion says AC Milan in the Champions League, and they're Bournemouth. Nice.
Oh my. Let's see. And then Totti's armband nominated. Let's see. Did he nominate Stephen A. Smith or okay? Yeah. Okay. So this was actually I caught this afternoon. Azzurri fan Phil getting mad at I guess the guys at the
we don't have to go there. I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
So apparently there was an argument, and Azzurri's fan Phil apparently trying to be better than everybody else again. And I think it was like, I can't even remember I can't even look at the argument. I mean, it's finally says, stick to your clown podcast, mid-table wrap-ups, and keep Maradona's name out of your mouth. Talking about these Juve guys. And Anthony Scanga, who is part of the All Juve cast, said, we work very hard on our clown, quote, in quotation marks, podcast and enjoy doing it. It brings joy to people who watch, much like bringing joy to someone by getting their coffee or restarting their laptop for them. So.
And what does Stephen A. Smith say?
Let's be nice. We don't have to go there. I mean, you're not wrong, but you didn't have to say it. I mean,
oh God, Stephen A. Smith. Oh man,
yep.
Oh man, is that the last one? I think it is. That
is the last one. Who wins? I mean, I think we had a lot of good ones this week.
Yeah. I mean, Patrick Kendrick had some really good ones today. The "Come On Lads" one had me dying. I mean, there's some really good ones. I mean, the Mexes lookalike with a free kick goal was good.
Saturnian,
yeah.
I'm going with his first one. Shocking scenes at the Juventus Stadium as Stewart stopped the Juventus fans from leaving the stadium to keep watching Allegri ball.
Yes, that's good. I'm gonna go with Patrick Kendrick's first one. Come on, lads. The punctuation matters, whatever you said.
Congrats,
I can't find it.
It's Saturnian 13. You are a co-winner.
Where is it? Of That's not it. Come on. Here we go. Rafa did it. Rough name. There you go. Punctuation Matters by Patrick Kendrick. Come on, lads.
All right, so we have a tie. We have Saturnian 13, which I already went ahead and did that. And then you're saying that we'll go with Patrick Kendrick's first entry.
Yeah. Punctuation Matters.
Okay, and that was back on Halloween.
Yes, sir.
Punctuation Matters. Okay. Wonder how accessible Patrick is if we can get him on at some point. Patrick, if you're listening, we'd love to have you as a guest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Saturnian 13 and Patrick Kendrick, you are this week's winners of Who Won Calcio Twitter. Well played. Remember, for Who Won Calcio Twitter, it's banter, it's friendly, it's funny, but don't be offensive, don't be a dick. That's really all we ask. So anything else while I send this tweet out?
Yeah, so I'm going to give us some shout outs for a couple things. So first, Calcio Connection. I was on the Calcio Connection last night. Had lots of fun. Had a couple of Romans on there. Chris and Mass were on there as well with us. Had a lot of fun talking about Roma Milan and obviously Jerry and Alex. I really had a blast. So shout out to them. Give them a follow for sure. Going to give a shout out to Chiesa de Totti. One, because they put out great content all the time, and also for allowing me to write a little preview for the Roma Milan game, which I got right. Yeah, definitely give them a follow. It's fantastic work that Chiesa de Totti does, and Chris in particular for allowing me to write for them for the preview for the second time I've done that for them. And then also I'm gonna give a shout out to all the people who have in recent weeks have assisted us in the fan camps. Fan cam reactions. From where we left off last time, Sean McIntosh did a nice one for Lazio reaction to Lazio Inter. We had Anthony from Interworld Y did one for Lazio Inter as well, get the Inter reaction. Joe Cappuccino for Juve Roma, giving us the Juventus perspective. Obviously, I mentioned Ryan Malik for Porto Milan, the first leg. Gianni from the Calcio guys gave us his Roma Napoli reaction. He's a Roma and Napoli fan, so that was a very unique reaction to get out of there. His buddy Nick for the Inter Juve, the Derby d'Italia. Nick gave us his reaction for Juventus. Uncle Sharma gave us the Inter perspective from the Derby d'Italia. Sabrina Belmonte for Roma Milan, and then also on the other side, excuse me, it's Chris. Steven Chiavallo gave us the Roma perspective. He's from Chiesa de Totti. That's what I say, Chris. I'm thinking of other Chris from the podcast last night. Jerry Mancini giving us his Lazio's pointers from Atalanta Lazio, and on the flip side, Dan Pizzotta, who we've had on from before, Atalanta Las Vegas. All of them. Thank you for your great reactions for the big games. Please keep them coming. If you want to join us, please let us know. Send us a DM either on Serie Sitdown or Frank and I individually. We would love to have you on to do your reactions after the game. It's just anything under 5 minutes, quick post-match reaction using your phone. And we really want to make sure we spread the love, let people know about all the creators in the Serie hemisphere. And that's what we're all doing. All about love and all about spreading the wealth. So keep them coming. Thank you all.
It's an outstanding initiative, Richard. Well done for getting that off the ground and all the work you're doing to help make those videos shine too. And I love it. I've watched just about every one of them. It's great stuff. It's great insight. Just getting the fans' perspective, and and it's also good because it helps me to catch a thing or two that that I don't bring up on the podcast, that you don't bring up on the podcast. Makes you look at a team a little bit differently. So excellent stuff, and we're going to keep rolling with that. And I'm sure we're going to have some Juve Fiorentina reaction. We'll have some Milan Inter reaction. So if you're interested in doing that, if you're interested in posting a video and being part of this channel, hit us up. We'd love to make arrangements to have you on. So with all of that, we'll put a bow on this edition of Serie Sit Down. Richard, anything else to shamelessly plug?
Nope. If you want to follow me at @KHARMAN.
Awesome. And I'm at FTC_21. Serie Sit Down. We have our own channel on iTunes and on SoundCloud. We can be on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever there are podcasts. There is Serie Sit Down. At Serie Sit Down on Twitter or Instagram with any comments, any takes, anything you'd like us to cover on future podcasts. We're all eyes and ears for that. We're also available and can be reached on Facebook as well. Look up Serie Sitdown and join those pages. This is our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Please drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Helps us out, means a lot to us. Everyone in the chat, thank you for spending some time with us tonight. All of you listening, thank you for taking the time to bend an ear. This has been a thrill. We will be back Sunday night, Richard, with some Derby recap.
You know it.
Awesome stuff. So this has been Serie Sit Down, a podcast of World Football Index. For Richard, I'm Frank. Tell your paisans about us. Ciao.